and so to Davos, the Swiss town that sounds like a cleaning product, where the keynote speech was delivered by someone most famous for organising a crash landing. Reassuring to know that the Conservative economic policy is now to put your head between your own legs. Labour policy, because the Socialists, is to put your head between somebody else's legs. We're still waiting for the policy officially from the Liberal Democrats. That it'd all be so different if Mark Houghton had won the elections, and then the advice would be to put your head between somebody else's bum cheeks. Although it would give you the rare opportunity that a politician would eat our shit rather than making us eat theirs. Davos was another stop on David Cameron's Travel the World on Your Money to State the Obvious tour. The first stop was Switzerland to teach them all about tax evasion. Second stop Munich to teach them all about multiculturalism. And the third stop is Brazil, where he finally got the chance to talk about something he knows about. Making cunts look good or not. There was more bad news for Cameron when it was revealed his big society wouldn't be as good as the Chinese plan to have a massive society. Although the Diet Camerons of the EDL expressed happiness about their march, attendance was lower than was expected, but that's believed that many EDL members were confused by the concept of having a march in February. Again, they reiterated their commitment to getting rid of books they didn't like, an idea that as of yet we're not sure where they got it from. Although imitation is a serious form of flattery, the EDL dislike the Quran because it's a 7th century book, creating the irony that they don't understand the reason it's the 7th century was because of a book that happened in the 1st century. And of course, what better form of literary criticism is there than rampaging through town centres? The London Review of Books has decided to form a militant terrorist wing, the real London Review of Books, to deal with this problem. And it's been revealed the next year's Booker Prize will be awarded to whoever wins a fight at Millwall's new den between Howard Finkelstein and David Baddiel's riot squads. In other legal news, a court case that started sometime before laws existed finally finished when Tommy Sheridan went to prison, although he has now spent more time in court than Andy Murray, which makes him the most successful Scottish tennis player for a while. Andy Murray is himself a guide to British multiculturalism, and that he starts every tournament British and then goes Scottish, although he's yet to play that badly that he'll become Welsh. It's not yet obvious how bad he would have to be to even become Northern Irish, though Northern Irish tennis champion Abu Hamza says he isn't afraid and will face him whenever. Andy Murray says he now plans to spend some time out from tennis and focus on doing some sweet jumps. Further evidence of the Conservatives' commitment to multiculturalism and the generally not being annoying to people who just happen not to be white. Although it's important that we remember that election pledges don't count for everything. Multiculturalism in the UK has now become so successful people have to make up claims of anti-Semitism, although Aaron Porter has agreed to cooperate with the police, although he says he doesn't want the person to go to prison and would much prefer them to pay a fine maximised to £6,000 and repay over a series of loans, which is a fair and equitable solution and is not worth having any occupations for. As the economy entered its double dip, oh shit, the oxygen mask has fallen down, I really should tell someone that I love them phase of the economy, the chief worry was that Sir Christopher Kelly, who's in charge of the MP's expenses system, said unless the system was sorted out it would put off poor people from entering politics, ignoring the fact that the current system is over 60% from public schools, and half of the Tory front bench did go to Eton. It's also good to see the MPs railing against their expenses system not working, whilst preparing to cut the disability living allowance, and the fact that the CSA often takes years to pay out any money at all to single mums. No doubt Sir Christopher Kelly would say don't worry about £9,000 in tuition fees, just think of it in terms of duck houses, then it's only 6. Although sorry if that leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Please though people, do consider MPs in their time of need when they're having to buy their own milk. Just £1 can buy an MP an envelope. Although £2 we can buy them some paper and they might get a fucking paper cut. In another fine moment for our democracy, whilst millions of people in Egypt protested just for the right to vote, William Hague stated we should advertise our democracy to the Egyptians. As well as successfully speaking to the youth by wearing hats with his name on it, Hague knows a lot about running a campaign at low cost. And in the opposite of low cost, WePromoteAnyCause.com spokesman Tony Blair came out to praise Hosni Mubarak as brave and courageous. Currently Egypt is going for an interim phase, although with Hosni Mubarak's name being Hosni Blessed, there are suggestions that another member of the Blessed family could be an interim leader. Things can't be all bad though. It's almost certain that anyone who can get 2 million Yunkins onto the street will have a future working in the social media. Of course, in Hague advertised conservative British democracy, these sort of things couldn't happen and students would never protest. Although cunning UCL students developed an iPhone app designed to help people avoid kettles. Asked where they came up with the idea of an iPhone app to annoy the pigs, they commented, "Well, it worked for Angry Birds." Sir Hugh Ord commented that unless the movement was prepared to elect a leader, that protests in this William Hague brand democratic genius democracy would have to become more extreme, though we're not yet certain what more extreme means. But Johnny Knoxville and the wee man are believed to now be working at New Scotland Yard. The appointment of the wee man means that Cressida Dick is no longer the most stupidly named police officer in the United Kingdom. On the subject of Dick, the BBC got round accusations of being nepotistic and only appointing certain people by giving Jackie Smith the right to do a documentary on porn purely because her husband once watched some. And so on this logic, it won't be long till the BBC gives Alan Johnson the chance to do a documentary on dogging. Johnson leaving allows Ed Balls to return to the Shadow Cabinet, who alongside Andy Burnham completes an entire Shadow Cabinet of people with hair from the 1950s, single-handedly trying to create Labour's glory days using fringes alone. And Ed Miliband's policy hunt has now taken him down the back of the sofa and the back of the fridge. Someone did get in this week to number 10, although a cat was appointed to deal with a rodent problem that had started to appear on TV shows around number 10, although again this was another failure for Cameron's big society, particularly when creatures that will lick arses are available for work. Lib Dem wet dream job to be head of the Office for Fair Access went to homophobic bisexual campaigner Simon Hughes. Although from the start it was bad news for the Office of Fairy Axes when it was revealed that the government's economic planning meant that if any university charged more than £7,500 for fees it would be out of pocket. So it's not so much the Office of Fairy Axes, but just trying to desperately work out how to not look stupid again. With the economy also suffering from what might be stagflation, it was revealed that Mervyn King, in charge of the Bank of England, would have to do one of his legal obligations, and his legal obligation is to write a letter to George Osborne. Although, to be fair, the only reason you'd want to talk to George Osborne is if you legally had to. Although you shouldn't call him George Osborne, you should probably call him Gideon Osborne. Or is that multi-millionaire tax-dodging Gideon Osborne? Or multi-millionaire personal wealth descendant of the King, baronet of a small part of Ireland, Osborne? And although King's punishment is technically to send a letter, it is rumoured that Osborne would have preferred it if he'd done some lines